My martial arts and self-defense journey started when I was about 10 years old. I was really influenced by the Power Rangers. I thought they were a great model to go with. I was a heavier child. I was very, very big, and I was bullied. And the Power Rangers didn't get bullied, and they didn't get picked on. And so I decided that martial arts might be the way to get out of that cycle of being bullied. And while it was successful, this is obviously pre-internet days. So I didn't know what was real, what was unreal. I only had the word of my instructor to be my touchstone to the world of violence. And unfortunately, that failed me grievously multiple times. And that's definitely one of the reasons that I started KPC as a brand and then moved on to this Randy King Live platform, because there was just so much snake oil out there. So I did the normal Taekwondo journey. I got a black belt. It wasn't very complicated. Very traditional instructor. Did a bunch of tournaments, and I really believed what I was being sold, which was Taekwondo is self-defense and it's counter-violence. And hands down, it's not. It's a sport-based concept, and I'm not saying that Taekwondo isn't effective, but it was being sold as a panacea for every single type of violence, as opposed to just opt-in tournament violence. And that really affected me, and it was a training scar that existed through the rest of my career up until recently. I firmly believe that I was unstoppable. There was no point in time that my coach should have told me I wasn't unstoppable, because I was competing. There's no need to have a sense of negativity in your head when you are trying to become a champion. So I won some titles, I did some stuff, none of that actually matters. And then I decided that I wanted to work in a bar. First real fight I got into was with a very heavy-set old man. He was a biker. And he beat the tar out of me. Like he did things, he said things, he smelled different. Like the entire experience was just not what I was accustomed to. It was visceral, it was frightening. I honestly thought I was gonna die. I got hit with rings, I got stomped on with metal boots. There was just this sensation, this whole environmental factor that I wasn't aware of. Concrete, blood, BO, it was intense. So that was my first real awakening to the world of violence. I realized really quickly that martial arts isn't to learn violence. Martial arts is to polish a sense of violence. So you need to know some basic movement, how to fight, how to take a punch, before a lot of the traditional martial arts even make sense. So eventually I married the two together, the street fighty type mentality that I had to do at the bar that I was working at. It was a very violent place. Also, I was young and I thought that violence was the answer. And then I got to marry the technical stuff to it secondly. So there was a bridge that I had to overcome that nobody had told me about at all. I'd been bouncing for a while. I had this air of confidence again, and it was exactly like the air of confidence I had when I was a black belt in Taekwondo. I thought I had this figured out. I thought, okay, so the Taekwondo stuff didn't work for me, but now this real world stuff is working for me. And at this time, I enhanced my training with some wrestling, submission wrestling training, and some Thai boxing training. So I'm like, okay, now I got the answers. Now I got this figured out. But they only sold me physical answers. They did not sell me psychological answers. They did not give me an education or a model or give me any idea of what to expect when things got really violent. And so one night I was working, it was a Wednesday, the bar was dead, and a guy tried to kill me. He tried to stab me in the neck. I luckily survived. I didn't even know there was a weapon present. He got me in the leg eventually, but I thought the guy was trying to pepper me with punches and wrestle me, when he was trying to both stab me in the neck and also retrieve his weapon that he'd lost in the middle of the fight. So that's the first time that martial arts severely failed me, in that weapons techniques were advanced curriculum. Weapons techniques weren't for right now. And the only person I had, the only model I had, was the coach that was telling me what violence was like. And he sold me a pack of lies. And this is one of the major reasons I do what I do, is that I'm here to clear the weeds of the bullshit that is out there, to give you an actual view of what's going on. It's not nearly as scary as you think, but it's not nearly as easy as people think either. It's definitely in the middle. The second time martial arts failed me grievously was a coach pretending to be a healer, and I sustained a major brain injury. I got smashed on concrete, and it was during a tournament. And the coach told me that I was fine. He was a chi healer, and he said that I was all right. So I continued full contact sparring in a sport model during a brain injury. It was so severe that I ended up being in a coma for a few days. So severe that I had to go through speech therapy that I still struggle with to this day. I still have trouble with speed of speech and volume of speech because the speech therapy couldn't fix that. And also I had to learn how to walk and gain my balance again. These are all things that people just don't talk about in these situations. It's frustrating because they make violence this romantic thing, right? Like, what would you do for your family? I would die for them. And dying is such a romantic notion of violence. But guess what? If dying's on the table, pooping in a bag is on the table. Being in a wheelchair is on the table. Are you willing to be crippled for your family? Or maybe should you create some other answers, some education-based ways to de-escalate, identify threats before they happen? There's a place for combatives. There's a place for martial arts. What I'm trying to specialize in here is realistic things. I don't want you to have to go through the things that I went through to get this information. The price for the knowledge that I have was exceptionally high. I believe through these models, through empowerment, education, and empathy, we can juice this for you so you don't have to go through all of the crazy experiences I did for you to get a better snapshot of violence. And let's be realistic. If you're not in a violent organization, if you're not cheating on your spouse, if you are not in a profession where you have to tell people no, or you're not really going out to places where 14 to 24-year-olds get their minds altered, you're probably not going to need any of this stuff at all, right? Violence, especially in the first world, isn't as common as people are trying to sell you. But knowing the things that I just said, if you are in one of those areas, maybe you're a 19-year-old human and you want to go to a bar where people get their minds altered, you need to have some sort of education. Education is accessible now. Technique takes time. So I want to give you the best education I possibly can so you don't have to go through speech therapy and physiotherapy to learn these hard-learned lessons that I had to pay for in blood.